Welcome into a fresh new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Jordan Giorgio alongside Douzable and Pete Prisco. To start off your day, we begin in the NFL, though, where the Detroit Lions fans are in some unfamiliar territory. For the first time in franchise history, the Detroit Lions are the Super Bowl favorites. After a 52-6 win over the Jaguars to move to 9-1 on the season, the Lions now have the best Lombardi Trophy odds, surpassing the Chiefs, who we know suffered their first loss of the season to the Bills. As you take a look at the current Super Bowl odds, you know, there's been a debate over the past month or so about the best team in the NFL. Is it the Chiefs with their previous perfect record, just finding ways to win, taking all 9 of their lives, or is it the Lions who have been just the most explosive team in the NFL so far this season? But the odds makers, Pete, have spoken. Do you agree with them?
I do. Right now, they're the best team in the league. And they were #1 in my power rankings this week for a reason. They've earned that right. They're so good offensively, and they play fast. They're one of the few teams that does that, and I love the way they play. Ben Johnson's done a great job with Jared Goff. They can run the ball. They're physical. Their offensive line really gets after it. And the defense, they're good, but I don't know how great they are. And not having Hutchinson could be key down the stretch. But right now, they've earned that right, and they're the best team in the league.
I think their defense is damn good, Pete. And when you look at it, and we've talked about it before. We talked about this before. They could have 2 All-Pros at safety right now. Kirby Joseph and then Brian Branch. And yes, they don't have Aiden Hutchinson, who was going to be Defensive Player of the Year. But I really love what Aaron Glenn has done, right? He's substituted that by actually bringing more pressure and putting more on the onus for the secondary. And he finally feels like he has the DBs that he wants. Let's not forget, he was a DB that was an All-Pro in the league. So he knew what type of guys he needed. Colton Davis has been amazing for those guys in the back end. Yes, Terrion Arnold had struggled at times, but he has grown as well. But anytime you have a guy like Brian Branch, you can stick in the slot, you can put him in the middle of the field, you can put him all over the place. It really helps with that defense in regards to putting those guys on the island and then adding pressure by blitzing. So I love what Aaron Glenn has done. I know the offense gets all the accolades, and they should, right? Because Ben Johnson has been amazing the way they're able to do what they do offensively. But some kudos needs to be paid to Aaron Glenn and this defense. That's why I think they're a championship type team, because the defense is taking a step this year.
At some point in the postseason, it won't happen until the postseason, you need sack, fumble, game over guy. And the question is, do you don't have that unless Hutchinson comes back maybe for the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl.
They said it's an outside chance.
Yeah, I mean, like the Chiefs didn't have the edge rusher who could do that, but they had Chris Jones who could do that. You need one of those guys.
A guy like Aleem McNeil, who's really come on strong. They paid him for a reason. He's been really good. He's not good, but he's been great interior pressure-wise.
Yes.
So it's interesting that you guys actually disagree on this a little bit, because I believe, if I'm hearing it correctly, that this pass rush is going to be the biggest weakness that's kind of standing in the way for the Lions from here on out.
Whenever you lose a player of that magnitude, and Zadarius Smith is a good player, he's just not that. And you mentioned McNeil and Reeder and those guys, they're good players, they're just not that. And at times you need that guy, the game wrecker.
You need the closer.
Guy who can take over the game. Like when the Broncos won, when Von Miller was a closer, you need the closer.
So who do you believe? What is the biggest weakness for this Lions team that could be standing in their way?
When it looks like, you look at it, pass rush can be an issue. One of the weaknesses was who was going to be the #2 receiver, but I think Jameson Williams has answered that question as well. So that was a question when he was coming off the suspension. He's answered that question. That's not an issue, because even with Sam Laporta being hurt, Jameson Williams has been unstoppable at times. And that guy right there, the sun god, Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? What is it, Pete? 7 straight games with a touchdown catch? Like, his rapport with Jared Goff is ridiculous. We know this is one of the best rushing outfits in all of football, but because of guys like this, Jameson Williams, this is why I believe they're the most complete team in the NFL. Yes, pass rush is an issue for them, but again, I like how they've mitigated that by the way they've actually sent more blitzers and been able to put their defensive backs on the island. Right now, this is the most complete team in the NFL.
All right, let's talk about another team that is right now emerging, but in the AFC, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are morphing into a legit contender right now. How have they been able to do it, Lijay?
Defense. I mean, defense wins championship. I know it's cliche to say that, but when you look at what they did Sunday versus the Baltimore Ravens, Pete, that team was on a 5-game streak of scoring or averaging around 36 points a game. Jordan, they held them to 16 points on Sunday. That lets you know this defense is legit. And anytime you have a defense that can hold an explosive offense to that small number, you have a legit chance. Also, Russell Wilson has been taking care of the football. Now, he did have the interception in the red zone, but if you go back and watch that film, right, Darnell Washington should have made a play on that ball. I mean, you're 6'7".
Don't absolve him of that crappy throw.
It wasn't a great throw, but at 6'7", you think your tight end would go up.
He was not good in that game.
I mean, neither quarterback was that great. Like, Lamar struggled in that game, but you have to give a kudos to the defense, right? Because the defense played really well in that game. So anytime that you can run the ball effectively and play really good hard-nosed defense, and that had been the issue for the Steelers the last couple of years. We hadn't really seen the steel curtain defense. Well, they're back now, and it's led by that defensive front.
Yeah, and one thing about the Steelers is they're physical, and we know that on the offense. They have 2 rookies on that offensive line. They get after. They're physical. They're maulers. That's who those guys are, and they want to run the ball, establish run. Russell Wilson, go back and watch that tape. He wasn't very good last week. And, you know, defensively, when you have a game record like they have, he can give you the sack fumble game over T.J. Watt, and that's the difference between them and some of the other teams in the league. And they're playing better on the back end. Porter was really good last week. But you know what the secret to last week's game was? They told Lamar Jackson it was a playoff game before the game.
To that point, Derrick Henry, 13 carries, and he still averaged over 5 yards a carry. Like, I don't get it. It's just like in those big moments, I don't know what it is with Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson in this offense, right? You have a bell cow in the backfield. If your quarterback is struggling, which he was in the beginning of the game in regards to missing Deontay Johnson on a fade route on the left where he threw the ball out of bounds, or in that slot fade, he misses Zay Flowers, who was wide open on a slot fade. Well, the way you can help your quarterback out is run the football.
Yeah, but until that one long run, he wasn't running the ball very well either. The Steelers actually
But you still
really
got to be consistent.
They're good up front on defense.
So you guys both brought up defense being a big reason of why the Steelers team is a legit contender in the AFC right now. But you also brought up Russell Wilson, but it doesn't sound like you are both confident in saying that Wilson is back. I
think he's more confident than I am.
Well, you know, me and Pete were on the same page when it came to Russell Wilson in the beginning of the year. We're like, this isn't going to work out. Because when you see what they want to do on offense in regards to throwing over the middle of the field, Russell Wilson doesn't like to do that. He likes to throw the boom ball, right? But I will say, I love how they've kind of critiqued the offense for Russell Wilson's skill set. You see what you're seeing right here on the screen, a lot of bootlegs, Pete, getting them on the edge, getting fire move, Darnell Washington involved in the bootleg, and then every so often, they'll take shots down the field with George Pickens. And when he's an alien and you put the ball in his vicinity, he's going to go up and make plays for you. That's all they want, George Pickens.
That's not a good throw either.
It's just, but if you give your receiver a chance, right, he can go make a play for you. So that's what they wanted from this offense. That's what Justin Fields wasn't doing. He wasn't being able to push the ball down the field. So they want the threat of at least pushing the ball down the field that will open the run game up, which the Steelers have done really well. They've gotten Russell Wilson on the edge on some bootlegs to get him some easy throws, and he just hasn't lost them the game so far this year.
Well, he almost did last week. He had a chance to go up 8 points, and he throws an end zone interception. You can't do that. Here's the thing about Russell Wilson. He's going to take his throws to the outside. He'll take some deep balls down the field and hope the receivers make 50-50 ball plays on him, which he's always been able to do. You mentioned those boots. He can get out little flickers. He doesn't throw to the middle of the field ever. And so if you're defending him, you know that. You know, I'm playing him that way. We still haven't seen where they really need him. You know, they beat the Jets. They were terrible. They were down 2 guys. They beat the Giants, who were terrible. They were down 2 guys in the secondary. They went to Washington. Washington, late in that game, why they were in man coverage and blitzing him and allowed him to throw a moon ball down the sideline to Mike Williams.
Knowing your secondary struggling.
And then last week, he wasn't very good. So we still haven't seen the best of Russell Wilson, or if this is the best of Russell Wilson, that's concerning.
Yeah, well, we will see if we see it tomorrow night, because the Steelers,
tomorrow, by the way.
That's a great point to bring up. Weather always a factor. The Steelers do head to Cleveland on Thursday Night Football to face the Browns. Guys, don't go anywhere, because we have more NFL talk on the other side. But Sunday in the NFL brings us quite the slate as you take a look at the games going on this weekend in both the 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock hour, all of which you can find on CBS or stream on Paramount+.